So last week, this was our picture, and we remembered that the women went to the tomb, but that Jesus was not there, and that they knew Jesus differently because he had resurrected from the dead, because he was not in the tomb. This week, we have a different picture. This is the story about Jesus' followers that were on the road to Emmaus. You can find this story in your Bible if you would like to read the story from there. It's in Luke, which is in the back of your Bible. Luke is one of the Gospels, so turn towards the back. It's in Luke chapter 24, verses 13 through 35. What I think Godly Play does really well is it lets us talk about the story together. So Godly Play is a way of telling God's stories to each other, and it makes them feel real because they are real. So I want you to allow yourself to imagine Jesus' followers on that first Easter when they had heard such strange things from the women who said that Jesus was not in the tomb. This story is later that day. This was the afternoon of that first Easter, when two of Jesus' followers made their way slowly toward Emmaus, a town about 7 miles from Jerusalem. Jesus' followers must have been shaking their heads in wonder as they walked and talked together about what had happened. They had seen the cross, and now they hear about this empty tomb. What could it all mean? And then a stranger joined them. The stranger said to them, "What are you talking about?" And the followers said to the stranger, "Are you the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard of all these strange things? All of the things that have happened these past few days?" The stranger said, "What happened?" Jesus' followers began to explain about the cross and the empty tomb. There had been so much. But then the stranger said something to them. He said, "You are foolish and slow of heart." And he opened the scriptures to them. He said, "Do you remember how we were trapped in Egypt and Moses led us out through the water into freedom? Do you remember how we were trapped in our freedom in the desert? And God gave Moses the 10 Commandments to guide us. Do you remember how we were trapped in exile? And the prophets said, a child would come to rescue us. The prophet said that this child would lead us, and that someone would come and suffer and die so that we might be really alive. By this time, they had already gotten to the village of Emmaus. All of the talking had made the miles go by quickly. The stranger seemed like he was going to move on. But Jesus' followers asked him to stay, and he did. When they sat at the inn for supper, the stranger took a piece of bread. He gave thanks to God for it, and then he broke it. He then shared it with the two. And that was when they knew. They knew who the stranger was. It was he. But in that moment, the stranger was gone. The followers sat at the table for a long time after that, talking. Now they knew why their hearts had burned on the road while they were talking with him. They got up slowly and hurried back to Jerusalem to tell the rest of the followers that Jesus had been known to them in the breaking of the bread. Now you see in this picture, we have Jesus' followers, and they're sitting at the table. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you can see their faces, all of a sudden they realize who it is when they share the bread with Jesus, like they had done not that long ago actually, like they had done before Jesus died. I wonder if there's anything at your house where you are that you could use to help tell this story. Now's a good time to get that thing and to tell someone around you something that you really liked from the story, or something from the story that you thought was important. Jesus, we thank you for the gift of bread.